Alright guys, so today we're going to be looking at a couple different builds for Freyna. Freyna is a top tier descendant who used to be the queen of mobbing, and honestly with most of her recent buffs, she's still a top tier mobber. So in this guide we're actually going to go over two separate builds. One of them is going to be Contagion, and the other one is going to be Venom Synthesis. Now in full transparency, I'm not a huge fan of Venom Synthesis. I think that it is an okay build, but I honestly think Contagion is a little bit better. But having said all that guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the guide. So as always, we're going to go ahead and start out with the guns that we're going to be using on these builds. So for this build, we're going to go ahead and use Secret Garden. Secret Garden synergizes very well with Tech Descendants, and we're going to go ahead and utilize it with this build. When it comes to the cores and the roll on this gun, it really doesn't matter that much. The big thing here is to go ahead and put on some sprint cores just to give you a little bit more quality of life and let you move around the map a little faster. Now I know people often ask me to show the builds on these guns, but I am going to tell you right now that if you're using this build properly, this is purely a stat stick, and the mods and the roll on this weapon do not matter. The important part here is to get the gun to level 4 and make sure you're carrying it in your hand when you're using your skills. So for the second weapon on this build, we are going to go ahead and use the Last Dagger. This is a gun that we use in a lot of our builds. I really like this weapon because it does a lot of burst damage, and it's really good in the current meta and in the current sandbox, and it goes well on a lot of different descendants. So for the weapon here, for the cores, we're going to go ahead and go with 1 firearm critical hit damage, 2 firearm attack, 1 fire rate, and 1 rounds per mag. When it comes to the roll down bottom, we're going to go ahead and go with Colossus damage, firearm critical hit damage, we are going to go with attack, and then weak point damage. The idea behind the roll on this weapon is it is a very general roll that we can use in a lot of different content with a lot of different builds and a lot of different descendants. So that is why we have it rolled out this way. For the mods on this weapon, this is what I would suggest. Something like this is going to be a pretty solid all-around build that you're going to be able to use in a lot of different content. The main thing here to keep in mind is that we do have fire enhancement on here, and you can swap that mod out for different elements depending on the type of content that you're going up against. Other than that, everything else on here is very good. It gives it a lot of critical hit damage, gives you large spike damage windows, and it gives you good weak point damage as well as base weapon damage increase. All in all, I really like this roll, and this is something that I would suggest you to put on your general use Last Dagger. For the reactor on this build, you definitely are going to want to go with the tech reactor. We're using a lot of tech skills, and this is going to synergize very well with the build. For the optimized conditions, you are going to want your optimized conditions to match. You're at least going to want to have tactical rifle on this. If not, tactical rifle and handgun. That way you still keep your damage up no matter which weapon you're using. When it comes to the roll down bottom, I do have skill cooldown and skill duration up. You can consider getting rid of that duration up and maybe putting something on there like a tech boost if you're trying to get additional damage. But at the end of the day, for what you're using this with general mobbing content, the build that we have on here and the roll that we have is going to do well enough. But if you are trying to eke out just a little bit more damage, you can always consider getting rid of that duration up and putting something like a tech power boost down there. Now for the components here, I really do like the Plague set. This is bringing a lot to the table for Freyna and is just going to increase your damage. So you might as well go ahead and put this set on. When it comes to the rolls, just go with HP and defense. The main thing here is this little bit of extra survivability is going to allow us to take survivability off of our actual mods and put things there that are either better quality of life or increase our damage. So at the end of the day, this is the roll and the component set that I suggest you use with this build. For the inversion reinforcement here, we're just going to go ahead and go with the Holy Trinity. We're going to get us a little bit of cooldown, a little bit of extra HP, and a little bit of MP. This is just nice quality of life on most builds that you're not doing something hyper specialized with. And I use this on a lot of my descendants unless I really have some sort of unique specific build that I'm building into. So this is what I'm going to put on my Freyna. On our Arche tuning board, we are going to use defense neutralization and we're going to use toxic cohesion. Both of these add a lot to the build and are going to help you do just a little bit more tick damage when it comes to your general mobbing. Other than that, you can see the boards here. We're really just facilitating as much damage as we can get while making use of being able to get to both of those individual nodes. One thing to note here is that we are skipping out on the gold skill power node. And what I will say is we tested the gold skill power node versus the defense neutralization. And the defense neutralization actually netted us more damage overall in our testing. So because of that, we're skipping out on the gold skill power node here and we are going to defense neutralization. Trust me, this wasn't something I did lightly because in my mind, the skill power should have won out. But in our testing, defense neutralization did do better when we were live testing this over on the Twitch stream. When it comes to the dog, use one. That's all I gotta say here. You're gonna get more out of the Hagios Sheepdog than you are the other dogs, so I would pick the Hagios Sheepdog, but at the end of the day, just use whatever you want. The important part is that you just have a dog equipped for quality of life. Alright, so now we're going to look at the mods for the first build, and what we're going to be looking at here is going to be Contagion. A lot of people love Contagion, myself included, because of the ease of use and just how well it evaporates or levels an entire room. Once you get this build up and running, there's really nothing for you to do but sit there and just watch the screen as everything dies in front of you. You don't even really have to move with this build once you get in the center of the room and get set up. The way we have this build set up, we do have quite a bit of damage baked into it, and because of that, our cooldowns are maybe a little bit higher than some people might be used to. Once you get used to these cooldowns though, this is definitely a really good way to play this build. Your 1 still has about a 3-second cooldown, and your 3 has about a 6-second cooldown. But if you alternate them right, you'll have enough of either 1 or 3 to be able to clear your way through hallways and get to a room where you get set up. Once you get in that room and get set up, after you get your 1 and 3 out, you really don't need to do anything else other than stand there. I've tested this build numerous times, and this build has enough cooldown to make it very, very viable and a fun build. Alright, so now we're actually going to go ahead and talk about the second build. What I'm going to say here is you don't realistically need to change anything on your build from what we had for Contagion. As you can see here, the main mods that change is power increase goes to maximize skill, and we end up switching out to Venom Synth. This is just going to allow you to eke out just a little bit more damage at base compared to the previous build. The downside to this build is you cannot throw it. You have to physically move around the map, and that is going to make this a little bit less user-friendly and a little bit more labor-intensive. The main goal of this build is just to run around and put poison puddles everywhere. There are other parts of your kit you can utilize, and you definitely should utilize them when you are playing. So out of the two of these builds, I do find this one to be a little bit less useful than the Contagion build. But honestly, the reason we built this is because of the upcoming Axiom Plans. Now, the developers have said that you will be able to use skills and then get onto the bikes. And my thought, and a couple of our community members' thoughts, was wouldn't it be fun to be able to take a character like Freyna, turn on her Venom Synth, and then just ride around on the bike and poison a lot of things while you're on the bike. Good news is the devs said that, as it stands right now, that is actually something that they plan on leaving in the game until it gets abused or they find out that it's overpowered. So because of that, we did go ahead and want to build a build that would let us do that on day one if it was something that we wanted to do. At the end of the day, Venom Synth is going to be more than just a meme build. It is actually very strong and very powerful, and if you do try this out, you will have a lot of fun running it through regular maps. I personally prefer Contagion, but I did want to put this build out there because some people are looking for a good Venom Synth build. So now I want to talk about how to actually play these builds. We're going to go ahead and start out with Contagion. Contagion is a very, very easy build to use. Essentially, you're just going to run from room to room and try to get your 1 and your 3 both landed. Your 1 and your 3 are different damage skills, and their damages do stack, so you can have the damage from the 1 and the damage from the 3 out at the same time. When you're traversing through hallways and trying to get to a room to get set up, I would not spam your 1 and your 3. I would try to make sure you're only using one or the other while you're traversing, because either one will do typically enough damage to clean out a hallway when you're running through. The goal is to make sure that you do not run out of skills, so just make sure to alternate your 1 and your 3 as needed to while you're traversing to ensure that you're still able to do damage and you are not losing any uptime on your damage or having to sit and wait to kill enemies. Now, when you get to a large room, that's where things kind of change up a little bit. When you get to a large room, you're going to want to try to get your 1 and your 3 out as fast as possible, and you're going to want to let those spread. In even larger rooms, you are going to want to try to throw multiple 1s and 3s out just to ensure the entire room is covered with both of those damages. At the end of the day, once you get this set up, you don't have to do anything other than stand there and profit, and that is the main way to play this build. When you get to the final boss, things aren't going to change very much. Go ahead and toss a 1 and a 3 at the boss's feet just to go ahead and get that tick damage burning them out. After that happens, you can use either your 4 or your last dagger to burn the bosses out and try to kill them and run them from phase to phase. I personally like to use my last dagger as I don't have to worry about cooldowns, and the last dagger does an insane amount of damage. But you can use either one you want to kill these bosses, as both playstyles are perfectly viable. Now, when it comes to Venom Synth, it is just a little bit different. This is more of an active skill and not a passive skill, so you will need to be moving around the map to spread this toxin. Big thing here is when you're running through hallways, just keep moving forward. It will take 1 to 2 ticks for enemies to die, but after you get them poisoned, don't worry about stopping and waiting for them to die. Trust me, they will all die. When you get to a main room, just go ahead and start circling the room and try to get the toxin covered as well as possible. Don't worry about your footsteps being directly on top of a target, as once one target gets infected, it is much easier for them to infect other enemies around them. The main goal here is just keep the room covered and wait for everything to die. Just keep circling the room and ensure that everybody stays under the toxin. If you have bigger chunky enemies, you can go ahead and hit them with a number 1, but honestly, you really don't even need to do that. Just keep the poison on the ground. When it comes to the final bosses, you're going to do very similar to what you did with the other build. You are going to have to get kind of close to them for your footstep toxin to actually hit them, but once they're under the tick damage from that, jump back, hit them with a 1, and then switch over to your last dagger and burn them out. After they phase, this is just a very easy rinse and repeat, and don't worry if your 1 is not up, just burn them out with the last dagger either way. Alright guys, and that's it. That's everything you need to know about this updated Freyna build. We did want to put both builds in here for the reasons I explained in the video, so hopefully you didn't just skip through the video and you heard why we actually went with these 2 separate builds. If you enjoyed the content, consider liking and subscribing for more First Descendant content as well as other game coverage in the future. We do plan on expanding the reach of the channel, and hopefully you are here when we do that and enjoy the other games that we cover. And if you do like our content, consider watching us live here on YouTube, or head over to the Twitch channel. We do stream 5 days a week, and we would love to have you there and have you meet other members of the community. But having said all that, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.